now everyone should be seeing my screen with the draft network pulled up and the current draft NFL order. No trades for the mock. We're going to be doing a mock draft if that wasn't obvious. And yeah, we're going to be alternating picks, talking a little bit about the picks and the team needs and whatnot. And then that'll be the rest of the podcast. So, ready, Ashton? I believe I have the number one pick and you have the Jets pick. So,
Let's do this.
The draft really starts with you. So, Trevor Lawrence, obviously going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, shoot. Wait.
Oh, no. Just hit refresh. Just hit the back arrow.
I hate myself.
It's okay. We're going to have a Stampede bloopers compilation when it's all said and done.
Oh, why? Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
There we go.
Trevor Lawrence is going to the Jags. Now you are on the clock with the Jets. I don't think there's much explanation for this. This is chalk. This is going to happen. We all know it's going to happen.
Pretty much.
So yeah, the draft really starts at 2.
Yeah. Okay. Honestly, I see the Jets going QB. I think it's pretty obvious now that they're not going to get Deshaun Watson. And I really think if you're not getting a caliber quarterback like that in free agency, and you're hoping to, especially under a new coach, under a new staff, you're trying to flip everything. So I think they're going to go ahead and get. Ooh, okay.
Well, it depends on who your quarterback.
I'm saying it's either Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. Man. I'm gonna go with Zach Wilson.
I agree. He is my quarterback number 2 in this class. I think that the gap between Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson is closer than the gap between Zach Wilson and Justin Fields. That's how high I am on Zach Wilson. So
I just like him because I think he's been playing really well with BYU, and his tangibles. I really think they measure up for professional athletes in general, and I really think NFL scouts, they've been really liking him these last few weeks. They've seen how he's been looking, and really you can work with either Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. But I really think because the Jets are going to be more of a defensive heavy system, I think they're going to have a more of a conservative offense, which I think with Zach Wilson, because he's still pretty athletic, his good arm talent alone will suffice for the Jets offense. So I think Zach Wilson will be the new QB for the New York Jets.
Well, you're going to be running the Shanahan system, and I think that Wilson is better equipped to run that system than a Justin Fields. So, all right, I'm on the clock with the Miami Dolphins. There's really 2 ways I can go with this pick. I don't envision them taking a quarterback because I don't think Justin Fields, Trey Lance are really much of an upgrade over to a Tagovailoa. I know that he didn't play very well last year, but there was a reason he was so highly touted coming out because of he's a good player. And unless you could trade this pick for Deshaun Watson, I don't see them going quarterback. So I could go Jamar Chase. I could go Penei Sewell. And honestly, just for the sake of mixing it up, I'm going to go Jamar Chase here. They need a number 1 receiver. They already have 2 good tackles. I know Penei Sewell would be an upgrade at tackle, but I'm going to change it up just so we can shake up the draft board a little bit. Jamar Chase, the number 1 receiver in this class, in my opinion. I really don't see a weakness in Jamar Chase's game. I think that he is going to be very, very good coming out the gate, like Julio Jones level rookie year good. So I kind of feel like I made it a little bit tougher for you there because normally Penei Sewell wouldn't be on the clock at wouldn't be on the board at 4, but Atlanta really doesn't need tackle help. So what do you do here?
Oh man, this is
I've seen
this is interesting because I don't think they're going to let go of Matt Ryan. I really think Matt Ryan's still going to be QB1 of Atlanta, at least for this year. So I don't think they're going to go aggressive at quarterback, at least not in the first round, maybe second or third. Yeah, this is kind of a tough one.
I mean, I've seen
I think their O-line's still good.
I've seen a few mock drafts throw around the possibility of Kyle Pitts going to Atlanta. So
I,
just to throw that in there in the ring for you.
I really think if you are Atlanta, you're probably thinking either having a dominant tight end, who again Kyle Pitts is really just a really large receiver because he's so athletic, or you go at corner because Patrick Surtain and Caleb Farley are probably two of the more athletic defensive players that you can really move around, especially in Atlanta's defensive schemes. Um, Honestly, I think if you're going to keep Matt Ryan and if you're just trying to get that easy target, especially if Julio Jones is still out there at wideout, it does make sense to go for Kyle Pitts. I really think Atlanta will probably go aggressive and give Matt Ryan a solid weapon outside of Julio Jones, because really, if you can't cover both these guys, I mean, basically you have another super weapon duo in the NFL.
All right. Well, I mean, honestly, trio because Calvin Ridley's played.
That's true. I forget Calvin Ridley's even still in the.
So
Yeah, that's a lot of good weapons.
this is yeah. Um, I know that we're not supposed to give our season previews or whatever, but I think that there's a really good shot that Atlanta, even if they don't even if they go quarterback here, I think there's a good shot they can make the postseason next year, because of how the rest of that division is shaking out. Obviously, the Bucs are going to be the best team, but we don't really know what Carolina's doing, and the Saints just lost one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, and they don't have the cap to resign Jameis Winston, so.
Oh, Saints are about to be the NFC Texans. They're going to default.
Yeah, I did. So, if you want to add a Kyle Pitts to your offense, you have potential to be one of the best offenses in the NFL, hands down. So, I really like the Falcons picking up Darren Waller there. So, yeah. Okay, so I think that since Penei Sewell's on the board still, I'm going to draft him. Obviously, the Bengals need offensive line help. It's the reason Joe Burrow got hurt last year. So yeah, Penei Sewell to the Bengals.
Oh,
Best
that
offensive
would
lineman since Quentin Nelson to come out. Really, no explanation needed here.
no, and really, if this situation were to happen for Cincinnati, you'd hear a really loud uproar in the front office, knowing that the one guy they need to protect their franchise quarterback for the next, I don't know, 10 plus years, you get that guy. Not just a guy, you get the guy. I think Penei Sewell is definitely one of the best offensive linemen in this class. He's definitely one of the best offensive linemen we've seen in quite some time. I mean, this is the type of guy we usually expect the Cowboys to try and trade up and get. So kind of nice to see Cincinnati try and get someone like him, especially to protect their franchise quarterback for so many years, Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you have the Eagles, and they're in a really interesting spot.
They could really go anywhere.
The real question to me is if Justin Fields is on the board here, do they consider pulling the trigger?
No, I think Jalen Hurts is still young, talented, athletic. I really think that he's a guy that you can really at least see if you can build around for at least a year before you go aggressive at quarterback again. I don't think it makes sense to all of a sudden get a quarterback in the first round after just getting Jalen Hurts and seeing what he can do for a team. I think they don't even have enough weapons to even build around any of the quarterbacks that they could draft in this class. So I think you might as well just try and build around Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz, depending on what they do. Again, the Eagles are kind of a mess right now. I would say you got to give them either. I have to say Devontae Smith. I think they need weapons, and Devontae Smith is really one of the talented wide receivers. First one to win the Heisman since I believe 1991 or 1992.
I think Desmond Howard was 92, if I'm not mistaken.
92 then? Okay.
It's 92. I could be, I mean, don't quote me on that, but
somewhere in the early 90s.
Yeah, I think this is a good fit. And I think this is one of the, if I had to put money down on a pick, I really think the Eagles would go wide receiver. It just kind of depends on which one they prefer between Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle, who are really like the big three right now, right? So yeah. Now the Detroit Lions. This is extremely interesting to me because I think a guy like Justin Fields has a higher upside than Jared Goff. And I think you would agree with me on that. The long-term I think that Justin Fields has a chance to become a better quarterback because of uh, his athletic ability and his accuracy. He has a great arm, right? Um,
10 fingers.
but I don't think that Detroit goes quarterback because I think that they're going to be in contention for the number one pick next year, and I think they know that. Um, so you don't want to take a quarterback now and kind of end up throwing him to the fire when you're 2-10 next year and see, oh, let's see what this guy has, and then he gets hurt and just it's a whole bad situation, right? So I think the best thing to do here, if you're the Lions, is take just basically just go best player available. That's not a quarterback. So that to me is between Jalen Waddle and Patrick Surtain, um, and even Caleb Farley. So, but I just think the value of receivers too great here. So I'm going to go Jalen Waddle here to help out. You know, they're losing Kenny Galladay, and Jared Goff needs all the help he can get. And heck, maybe you end up having a franchise quarterback in Jared Goff, right? And you don't have to take a quarterback next year. So
And really, Detroit of all teams, they can really afford an experiment year, and I think they're really interested to see what Jared Goff can do, what system that they're going to run that will help Jared Goff. Will he be physically prepared to play for the Detroit Lions? Because they are a lot more of a physical, old school type of team. I don't know if you ever watched the new head coach give his speech, but yeah,
he's the most Detroit head coach I've ever seen in my life.
it's a new environment, that's for sure. So I really think this is the year where the Lions can just experiment, see what works, see what doesn't work, just try and get the best available weapons and solid, all around players as possible. Don't, go aggressive on the quarterback position because you never know if, a really good quarterback in next year's draft or the draft after that might fall into your lap depending on how things go, especially if you're easily going to be projected fourth in your division again. I think Detroit can just do really what they want. Just try and get the best players, as you said there, Ryan. All right. That being said, I have the 8th pick, Carolina.
I mean, obviously, the big question is, do you go quarterback here? Um, look, there's been reports that they're looking to upgrade and move on from Teddy Bridgewater. They're trying to get Deshaun Watson, but so clearly they're not satisfied with what they have in Teddy Bridgewater. But it just depends on how you feel about Justin Fields. Ultimately, I do think that they're a prime trade up in the draft candidate, right? So, and I don't think Justin Fields will be available at pick number 8. But obviously, we're not doing trades here, so
right. And it's interesting because I've been seeing all kinds of reports about how Carolina's been really aggressive in the trades in the quarterback carousel. They're really trying to get an experienced quarterback that can play right off the bat. So it'd be no surprise if they try to get either Justin Fields or Trey Lance if it's available to them right at this moment. Now, ideally, based off trades that we'll probably see between now and April, Justin Fields will probably not be available. Trey Lance more than likely will. And we've even had him land in Carolina a couple of times in our mock drafts, Ryan.
yeah.
But I think just for this instance, this purpose, just to mix things up, let's just give them Justin Fields. Let's just give them that new quarterback that is star talented, that can do all the right things, who's played for a good Ohio State program. Just see how it goes. I really think Justin Fields is a guy that you can build around with many franchises in the NFL. And I think Carolina, seeing how aggressive they've been and just trying to trade for a good quarterback, I really think it wouldn't be surprised if they got Justin Fields if he was right there at number 8.
And I really think that Justin Fields could end up on Carolina one way or another. And he's a guy who I think should sit for a year. And you can do that when you have Teddy Bridgewater, even 2 years, because I believe Teddy Bridgewater has 2 years left on his contract. You could sit Justin Fields for a few years if you have to while you build up your roster. And then you can thrust Justin Fields in there after Bridgewater's a free agent and you already have your franchise quarterback and you can, basically just kind of explode onto the scene because you'll have this roster you've built up and your quarterback will be on a rookie deal. So I I think Justin Fields to Carolina, if they don't end up with Deshaun Watson, is a real possibility. Um, so I have my Denver Broncos at pick number 9, and I'm just going to pencil this in because I think that it's going to happen come draft night. The Broncos are going to go quarterback. They desperately need corner help, and my number one corner is Patrick Surtain. I think that he is an elite zone coverage cornerback. He does need to improve his man coverage, but as we're seeing in the NFL, um, it's becoming a more zone centric defensive league. So, and I think Patrick Surtain, he really excels in zone coverage. So Surtain's my guy. And if Denver's not going to upgrade a quarterback, Surtain is the person and the player that I would love Denver to end up getting.
No, I like the pick there. I really think Patrick Surtain is definitely the best corner in this draft. He again, as you said, he's a solid zone corner. Playing at the University of Alabama, I don't think his man coverage is going to be as bad as people think. I really think it's just something that wasn't ran a lot with Alabama, just because they're really aggressive zone, like to make sure they don't give up the seams type of team. They do a lot of schematics and stuff like that. But I really think Patrick Surtain, he's probably the most prepared corner to transition from college to the pros. He's again just a solid player who's played with under Nick Saban for 4 years. Um, just makes sense. And then Denver needing corner. We talked about how they just let go of a veteran quarterback after having some injury issues this past year, and they're definitely going to want to rebuild that defense basically altogether. They're going to want a new defensive line, a new defensive front, linebacker core. They're going to want to be better, and definitely getting your secondary already taken care of right at the draft would definitely help kind of keep your defense complete, and then be able to kind of have a more conservative approach on the offensive side. So makes sense between Denver and Patrick. Alrighty, I have the 10th pick, which is the Cowboys. Um, it's always funny to see that their biggest priority is offensive line, because I feel like they're the one team that's always drafted a tackle or a guard within the first was always a top 10 pick. It seemed like just a given. You think they just have enough.
It
It's
just is.
never enough.
Look, they have a really good offensive line when they're all healthy. It's just the
Yeah.
fact that every single year, Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, whoever it is, someone always gets hurt on this offensive line. So, it's not shocking to see. And now if they ended up going tackle, they can kind of move on from those injury prone players. So
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just need to switch restaurants for the football players. I don't know. But honestly, I think I'm gonna give them Caleb Farley. I think Caleb Farley is a too talented defensive player to not try and get if he lands into your spot in the draft. I think they can get offensive line help in either free agency or even lower throughout this draft class. A lot of these offensive tackles that are available, you can probably even land in the second round. So I think Dallas they have more flexibility, and I really think if a player like Farley is available, just go ahead and get him. You really need some help in your defense anyway.
and the thing about Farley, uh, and why there is a conversation between him and Patrick Surtain for the number one corner is because Farley is just a big athletic freak at corner. Like if he wanted to, the kid could play safety. I mean, I believe he's 6'2". I could check right here by clicking on it. 6'2", basically 200 pounds. He is absolutely an athletic freak. And I mean, heck, if Dallas ends up needing help all over the secondary again, I mean, you could move him to safety if you wanted to. He's that good. So, and you're right, this being an historic offensive line class, you could more than likely get one of these guys in the second round that'll pan out. So, all right. So the New York Giants, pick number 11. I'm on the clock. A lot of needs here for this football team. Um, I'm really tempted to go Micah Parsons here. Obviously, his draft stock has slipped a little bit because some off the field stuff, but I don't think that really seems to matter. And I think winning football games and being a good football player, a lot of that stuff kind of goes away. You look at guys like Tyreek Hill and Antonio Brown, just played in the Super Bowl, right? So, but the thing is, I don't know if, and plus the thing with Parsons is a lot of that stuff happened like 2, 3 years ago. So I don't think, you know, I don't know if it holds any weight still. It's just so difficult because I feel like Joe Judge is such a Belichickian coach, right? Such a Bill Belichick type of coach. He's such a hard ass. So will he tolerate the Micah Parsons player? I don't know. But as we've seen, Belichick has had no problems taking on players with challenges and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Micah Parsons here. They need help at linebacker. You can pair him with Blake Martinez. So, yeah, there you go. Micah Parsons. And,
Yeah, it's an interesting fit. I mean, we again, there's been some questions about Micah Parsons in regards to some of the things that have been talked about his past wise like 2 3 years ago, but it's stuff that's really came out the last second, especially now that him entering the NFL draft. So again, as you said, I don't know how much weight there is being weighed on it, or if Joe Judge or any other NFL coaches and GMs will have those serious talks about his off the field stuff that has came up in the media. I'm sure they will in regards to all the rookies anyway coming in. But player wise, I like Mark Parsons. I think he's a talented player. I really think he's a good leader at the linebacking position. And for this Giants defense that has really been just built off the simple foundation of the players that they just had just last year and the year before, I really think just having Micah Parsons there will just make the defense 10 times better. So I think that's a solid pick there for the Giants. All right, 12th pick, San Francisco 49ers. Man, they missed out on Farley and Patrick Surtain. That's unfortunate.
other corners on the board, J.C. Horn is here. Asante Samuel stock is rising. I don't know if you take those guys here at 12. You can, but I don't know.
I I don't know. It's interesting. They could go quarterback. Could, because Trey Lance is a really talented big guy out of North Dakota State, and really under Shanahan's offense, he could really thrive in because he doesn't have to do the everything like he's asked to do at North Dakota State. He just asked to make the right choices and throw the ball at the right guys on the right routes and read the right coverages, which is something he was already doing in North Dakota State anyway, aside from also running around and rolling right and rolling left and the read options, stuff like that. Ah, man. And really Jimmy Garoppolo, he's really shown that, as much as you would like to just have a quarterback who just plays fairly consistent, even though he throws on average 1 to 2 picks a game, you would like to upgrade the quarterback position. And assuming that the Niners team is going to be healthy next year with everybody else, it kind of makes sense to just fix the quarterback issue, kind of like what the Rams did in their trade to get Matthew Stafford. So if you are competing against Matthew Stafford twice a year, Russell Wilson twice a year, Kyler Murray twice a year, you know what? Give them Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a 49er. It's going to be interesting, kind of a blockbuster kind of thing, but the Niners are playing on competing not only just to get into the playoffs, but for their division. You got to just go ahead and get the best guy.
Trey Lance is slowly becoming one of my favorite players in this draft. He is such an athletic freak at the quarterback position. Easily has the strongest arm out of any quarterback here in the class. It's just a matter of putting everything together and him landing in the right spot. Well, I think he's really similar. I don't think their play styles are similar, but he's really similar to Josh Allen in that Josh Allen just had to land in the right spot in the right system like he did in Buffalo, and now look at him, right? And I think Trey Lance, he has the potential to be one of these all-time top 10 quarterback in the league for many years kind of players. If he lands in San Francisco, then absolutely he will end up being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in a few years. So, all right. I had the Chargers pick, and as much as it pains me, they need offensive line help. And Rashawn Slater's on the board. So, taking Rashawn Slater, they need O tackle help. lot of people are actually very high on Slater. Some people have him ahead of Penei Sewell. I don't, but he slides to 13, and yeah, you're on the clock with the Vikings. Interestingly enough, I would have advocated for Trey Lance to go to the Vikings if the 49ers passed on him. So,
Yeah, I think they'll wait for Kirk Cousins' contract to go up first. But all right, Detroit 14th. It's also that they need basically offensive line help and defensive line help. I do think their defense is not that bad. It could be better, obviously, but it's about average. Um, I'm kind of surprised that offensive line and offensive tackle are considered their biggest priorities because I really thought if you're running the ball with Dalvin Cook so well, it can't be that bad.
I think that it's a mid-tier line, and Cook is
Maybe just
obviously
for passing situations.
Cook is obviously one of the best offensive, or not one of the best running backs in the NFL, right? And I think it just ultimately boils down to him really thriving in Gary Kubiak's system. Future Hall of Famer Gary Kubiak, who has retired, former Denver Bronco head coach.
Well, I'll definitely say this. If it's that big of a need, let's just go ahead and give Minnesota Samuel Cosby. He's best on the board. He's an offensive tackle out of Texas. It just seems like the best fit. Best available player who's in a position that's best needed for the Vikings.
It pains me that for the Patriots that Trey Lance isn't on the board here because Trey Lance ended up going to the Patriots. Ooh boy, it'd be over. But I'm actually not going to take a quarterback here. I think some people would expect Mac Jones here. I am not a big Mac Jones guy, as you will. So I still think he ends up being a first round player. And I think he is a first round talent. I think he's one of the best 32 players in this class. I just think he would go later in the first round. But, I think that New England goes a veteran route. They can get a Marcus Mariota, a Jameis Winston type of player, or maybe re-sign Cam Newton. Andy Dalton is available. And I think that they just need to add weapons. So Rashad Bateman's on the board, and I'm going to take him. Unbelievable player, Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, no, Rashawn Bateman's a beast, and again, it's gonna be weird watching this draft, seeing New England in with the 15th overall pick, actually a mid-average pick that they're probably not going to trade away. I mean, I could be wrong. New England's kind of unpredictable.
Yeah, they
But
could trade back. Who knows?
yeah, who knows? They could find the next Tom Brady out of Southern Rhode Island University or something weird like that. But yeah, interesting to see. They definitely need a weapon. And I think Rashawn Bateman best fits. All right, Arizona Cardinals. Says their biggest priorities are corner and running back, and so really they're going to have a tough time choosing between Najee Harris and Jace Horn because I really think those are the two players that really stick out in your draft board. If you're kind of expecting to fill one of those two problems, do you get the solid 6'2" All-American running back that was top 5 in the Heisman list? And have him pair it with Kyler Murray in a run-heavy offense, RPO-heavy offense? Or do you get Jace Horn to kind of secure your secondary a bit and kind of complement the veteran safeties that you already have? Like, what do you?
They are losing Patrick Peterson,
That is true.
but they are also losing Kenyon Drake. So
It's kind of a tough call, and
plus Kenyon Drake didn't play well at all last year, anyways.
yeah, I don't.
Ended up being the number
It's
one.
it's kind of tough. If you're Arizona, I mean, you kind of get the best of both worlds. It's just about what do you want to fit better. And I really think, based on how Kyler Murray's played, I think he's played okay, but I think he could play a lot better if they do establish the run game better. And so with that, I think they're going to go with Najee Harris just because he's the higher ranked player on this board. And I think the running back's still one of their bigger needs. And simply having that need fulfilled and also having a guy as talented as Najee Harris in the backfield will definitely cause some problems for the Seahawks defense, 49ers defense, the Rams defense. It's going to cause all kinds of trouble.
Okay. I don't hate the pick. I'm not a big running back guy in the first round, but I understand. So now I'm on the clock with your Las Vegas Raiders, and there's a lot of different directions I could go. I could go take Kwity Paye, who is an edge rusher, although I think that they're fine at edge rusher. Um,
No, we're not.
I think that they have Cleveland Farrell, they have Max Crosby, they
We're
spent
not.
high draft capital on edge, so I don't think that they would do that.
And we
The
did it poorly.
other player I see is Jeremiah Wosu Koromoa, JOK out of Notre Dame, but they did spend big money in free agency last. Not in free agency. They signed, was it Nick Kowalski or whatever his name is? He's a coverage linebacker from the Browns who actually played good when he was on the field. So I'm actually going to kind of go surprise route. I'm going to take Christian Barmore out of Alabama, who is an absolute studded defensive tackle. He'll help the defensive line of the Raiders. Pair him with Arden Key there, and you look. This is a very weak defensive line class outside of Christian Barmore. So I think that pushes his value up the board. And I think that this ranking right here, 36, needs to be updated because I really think he's a top 20 player in this class. I'm going Christian Barmore. They need all the defensive talent they need. They could, and pass rush was one of their issues. Christian Barmore was talented enough to get that push up the middle. And then you have your two edge rushers in place with Cleveland Farrell and Max Crosby. You give Farrell one more year to develop, and then you could take an edge rusher next year or in free agency if you feel like he's not good enough. And also, in this world, Xavier Woods is a Raider, so I'm not going to be addressing the secondary in the draft. So
That's a fair point. I mean, I would have preferred edge, but that's just me. I'm just being a little biased. I really think we kind of, as much as I like Max Crosby and Farrell, I really think we could have used more help, but that's fine. All right, Dolphins, 18th pick. We got a wide receiver 1. Devontae Parker's already there, wide receiver 2. They have Gasecki at tight end. So I think offensively they're doing good. Now it's just deciding, do you want to improve your defense or do you want to protect your quarterback? Secondary is already good. I think their linebackers are still pretty good. If I were the Dolphins, it really comes down to either Kwity Paye or Christian Darrisaw. And I really think if you're playing on either way, you have a franchise quarterback starting, rather you do somehow either get Deshaun Watson or you decide to keep Tua. So I really think you got to focus on just protecting him. And I think Christian Darrisaw would be a solid pick for Miami, especially since they already took care of their weapons and already have a pretty good defense.
hey man, there was a conversation to be had on whether or not Penei Sewell should be taken by the Dolphins, right? And if you have them take Jamar Chase, who is the best receiver in this class, and you can get Darrisaw later, who I'm really high on Darrisaw. I mean, that's a pretty good compensation for, Penei Sewell and the 5th best receiver in the class, right? So I actually like this scenario a lot, where they end up with a offensive tackle number 1 and a wide receiver number 1. So, all right. So now I'm on the clock with the Washington football team, who just re-signed Taylor Heineke to a.
Let's go.
So
Taylor Heineke.
Mr. Heineken himself is.
I love that man. He was so fun.
Inspiration, honestly, so inspiring.
He really is.
And there's actually a big rumor going around that Washington is making a push to trade for Marcus Mariota from the Raiders, right? So I don't think that they take a quarterback here. I don't think they take Mac Jones here, right? Because you can roll with Mariota or Heineke, depending on what you do there. So I'm just going to go ahead. Oh, I don't know. Could go offensive tackle here. I like the depth at offensive tackle is insane in this class. I mean, although you go all the way down to Dylan Raduns, he's a first round player in my opinion. So All these guys, first round talent caliber. I could go wide receiver here. Terrence Marshall, Kadarius Toney, Rondale Moore on the board. Um, Cornerback is also a big need here. J.C. Horn's on the board. I think the value here is actually really, really good. So I'm going to go with and Jeremiah Wosu's on the board. Now I'm in a pickle. You know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to go J.C. Horn. The front seven for the Washington football team is absolutely unbelievable. And you just add J.C. Horn to an already stellar defense. They should be the favorites probably in the NFC next year going in. So
Yeah, I forget that their division's already a mess, and by simply having a good player that you could start right away, you can already put yourself in first place in the NFC East. But yeah, if you have Jace Horn
to be
and Chase
fair,
Young on the
Dak
same
is going
team,
to be coming back, so he might thread the needle. Move the needle for the Cowboys a little bit. People don't.
I think they'll be the two heavy hitters that will fight it out in Week 17 for the division.
Both at 8-8, baby.
But yeah, again, it's gonna be a 9-7, 8-8 situation. Like I wouldn't be surprised. At best, like 10-6.
Okay, the Bears.
That's it's a good pick. I think Jay-Z Horn and Chase Young on the same team alone is already dangerous for any NFL team. Okay.
So the question here is, in this universe, do the Bears get a veteran quarterback, or are they going to draft one? Right. So.
Yeah, it's just like the Jets. Well, it used to be back when we were doing these.
I'm interested to see what you do here.
Chicago. Oh, how you're always fun to analyze. Man. Well, they're not getting running back because they already have a good running back. I don't think they're going to focus on their front seven. So Kwity Paye and Jeremiah are kind of not really there.
Man, Kwity Paye has fallen down the draft board.
It's weird. He's really a solid edge rusher.
I mean, hey, that's just sometimes it just goes that way, right?
The only way
Adams fell, DK Metcalf fell, like players fall sometimes.
It's weird how it works like that. But
not Jamal Adams. I meant Derwin James fell. The Chargers got Derwin James at like 17. Ridiculous. So
if it's weird because we don't know who their quarterback's going to be, and we don't know if they're going to get it via free agency or via draft. So we don't even know if these draft picks will even be available for Chicago. But I think
Chicago's to go after Carson Wentz as well. So that's a possibility. I don't know.
I think Carson Wentz will be a Colt before he becomes a Bear, but
that's the other team, obviously. Right here, back-to-back picks, pick 20 and pick 21.
You know what? I'm going to do the safe thing, go based off their needs, go based off what's best on the board, and I'm going to give them Elijah Vera Tucker, the offensive lineman at USC. I think regardless of whoever becomes their quarterback next year, having protection up, especially from inside the tackles, is going to be a big priority. You definitely want that to be kind of a big pitching point to maybe whoever you're trying to attract in free agency anyway, that, hey, we're going to be focusing on protecting you. So if you do become a Chicago Bear, we will make sure we put our assets toward working around you. So I think that's going to be the big promise they need to fulfill anyway, especially if their offensive line is considered not that good.
Tucker, guy that can play all 5 positions along the offensive line. So he's slowly becoming another fan favorite of mine. Now the Colts are on the board. And I'm tempted to go Mac Jones here, but I think that it's more likely that the Colts, being as how good their roster is, I don't think they want to wait around and wait for a rookie to develop because of how good their roster is. So I think that Sam Darnold or Carson Wentz is more of a possibility here for the Colts. With that being said, man, I wish J.C. Horn was here because I think he'd obviously be a great pick.
I'd play it safe and give him Jeremiah.
I'm thinking I'm going to go Kwity Paye here, actually. You compare him with, what's his name? Who'd they trade for last year?
Buckner?
Yeah, DeForest Buckner. Like, what a pairing, right? So,
That would be dangerous.
yeah, that's a really good edge.
They already have a good front seven as it is. So, either way, if you go defensive end or linebacker, I mean, it's going to be a scary defense. But I think, again, as you said, they're not waiting for a quarterback to develop. They want to get somebody that they think can just fit in their role and their schemes as a veteran. And even in last year's draft, this team was already starting to remind me of the 2015 Denver Broncos. Get all your assets in defensively, have a dominant run game and set up the play action on the offense. I mean, it just makes sense. And I really think that they're going to find that perfect free agent, because I don't think the Eagles are going to keep Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz on the field next year on the same uniform. So I think either of those guys could be a potential starting quarterback for the Colts, and as well as a handful of other guys in free agency.
Yeah. And just pairing him with DeForest Buckner on the edge there, I think that's a dangerous pairing there. So, and unfortunately for Tennessee, whose biggest need is edge rusher, they miss out on Kwity Paye, one pick before.
Oh,
but Gregory Rousseau and Joseph Rasier there, if you want to go that direction.
Man. Oh, that's right. I'm even. Tennessee Titans. They do need edge help. They also need an inside defensive line and corner. Okay, so they basically need a defense. So I'm going to give them Jeremiah, linebacker at Notre Dame. He's basically the best defensive player available, and they need defensive help.
I probably would have gone edge rusher there, but because they are losing Jadeveon Clowney, but I think Jeremiah Owusu, I think that he fits all 32 teams. I mean, we talk about linebackers and how they have to cover nowadays, and that's what he is. He's a coverage linebacker. So I think that it's very, very important that it doesn't matter what team he goes to, he's going to fit. Now the Jets, who decided to take Zach Wilson, their franchise quarterback. Now, look, I know I should go offensive line here, but there's a player on the board who I think that the Jets need to swing for the fences here, and they need to develop some raw talent. I'm going Gregory Rousseau out of Miami, who, to start the year, was a consensus top 5 pick, the best edge rusher in the class. He started falling down the board because people actually watched his tape and saw that the however many sacks he was were more opportunistic sacks. And I don't think that he is as bad as everybody thinks he is. He's such a raw athlete. He's a great athlete. I know I keep using the term athlete, but he's such a freak. I think he fits here as a 4-3 defensive end, and you have a new defensive-minded head coach in Robert Saleh. He's going to love to get his hands on Gregory Rousseau, and there's not a better coach for Rousseau to go to.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, Gregory's, as you said, he is a solid athlete. He's definitely brought defensive pressure for the University of Miami. And I think any, talented athletic defensive player under the Jets system, especially with a defensive-minded head coach, I think they're going to thrive really well. So good pick overall for Gregory. And hopefully the Jets do end up developing him into a star NFL edge rusher.
If he gets the right coaching, he will be a star.
Yeah. All right. Pittsburgh at 24, which is interesting because one of the reasons why, Ryan, maybe you didn't have the Jets get offensive tackles. Maybe you thought maybe they'll get Alejandro Villanueva, who just became a free agent from Pittsburgh. So I don't know. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't. But regardless, the Steelers, they do need some offensive line help. They also need help at corner. Really? I thought their defense is still pretty solid. I don't know why corner's that big of a help. Maybe they are. I do know why. Because they're losing someone in free agency. We just saw it. Sutton. That's why.
I would advocate. Look, I'm not going to advocate for him. But Mac Jones is still on the board here, and it's an interesting situation. I don't know if he would end up in a Steelers uniform. I just don't think that he'll fall this far. But there's an argument to be had, and especially with how Big Ben played last year down the stretch. I don't know. But if not here, there's another team later in the draft within the next few picks that I'm going to advocate for Mac Jones, because I think he's a first round talent. And I think there's two teams left here that I think should go after him, either the Steelers or the Saints. Both are your picks. So I'm not going to tell you what to do.
All right. So I've narrowed it down to two players, but there's only one way I'm going to determine which of these two I'm going to pick. Can you show me the measurements of Travis Etienne?
5'9", 210.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, all right. Jalen Mayfield, you are a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Jalen Mayfield.
My thing is that regardless, they do need to improve the run game, but I also think that they need a relatively big enough back to kind of handle taking those ground and pound runs. I don't think the Steelers, they can get away with those zone runs anymore. It's just not their style, especially with a veteran quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger being on that offense. I think the passing game in general is fine. I think Big Ben is a really big leader and a veteran. He knows how to get all these wide receivers to be in the positions they need to be. But that run game is just something they need to address. I think their defense is fine. I think the passing game is really fine. I think Ben Roethlisberger, he still has a couple years left in the tank. It's just about establishing the run. If you don't bounce out that offense, of course you're going to end up throwing 4 picks against the Cleveland Browns of all teams in the playoffs. So run game needs to be established. I think Jalen Mayfield is a good player that you can have for both the run and the passing games, knowing that he'll be protecting Big Ben.
All right. I have the Jaguars. And I think if you're going to take Trevor Lawrence, you need to give him as much help as possible. I'm not going to go ETN here. I'm actually not even going to go wide receiver. Kind of a surprise pick, but a guy that has snuck into the first round in some mock drafts. Pat Freiermuth out of Penn State, the number 1 tight end in the class, because I don't consider Kyle Pitts a tight end. And look, you get a big-bodied guy, make life a little bit easier for Trevor. I just think you need to be doing all you can for Trevor Lawrence, and Pat Freiermuth, or Mouth, I don't know how to say his name, but I think he is a first-round player. So.
Well, only time will tell. I haven't really done that much homework on the Penn State tight end, but I will say this, that the Kyle Pitts gap between him and the other tight ends that are in this draft class, I mean, it's definitely significant. Kyle Pitts is definitely a standout guy, and hopefully this Pat gentleman from Penn State, he can really become that key weapon for Jacksonville, especially with Trevor Lawrence kind of leading the charge as a QB. All right, Cleveland, 26 pick. It says their biggest priority on here is edge, which I don't know.
Well, they got 1 edge. They don't have a second.
True.
No, they're losing their guys.
Kind of a big one.
They're losing 2 guys. They're leaving Olivier Vernon in free agency, and they're losing. I don't remember the other guy's name, but Joseph Asai is on the board. So.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, defense is going to be their big priority. I think their offense is really good. I think the O-line's good. The receivers are good. Baker Mayfield's been playing well under the system. Offense is kind of smooth sailing at this point. So, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and give them Joseph Asai the edge at Texas. I really think it's a good fit there. And the fact that he kind of lands, 3 spots lower than what he's basically predicted, I think that's a really good steal for Cleveland, getting the player that they basically need and kind of help just complete the defense altogether, and someone that can complement Myles Garrett.
Man, that sucks for the Baltimore Ravens because Osai would have been my pick if he wasn't gone there. You know what, actually? I'm going to give Lamar Jackson at number 1, another receiver. I know they have Hollywood.
Still on the board?
Terrence Marshall, Kadarius Toney, and Rondale Moore.
I give them Marshall.
I'm stuck between these 3. I know that, Rondale Moore's 48th and Kadarius Toney's 31. But, you know, this is just one person's draft board, not mine, not yours. And I feel like, I don't know. Let me look at the measurements real quick. 6'3", 5'11".
5'11".
5'9".
No, they're getting the 6'3", dude.
I'll go Terrence Marshall here.
They need height. They don't really have a wide receiver that's really that jump ball person. I mean, yeah, they had Des Bryant.
They have Mark Andrews.
That's a tight end, though.
He's their jump ball guy, but
he's an inside jump ball guy. They need a perimeter guy, and I really think Terrence Marshall is the dude.
Okay. I'm advocating for Mac Jones here. It's up to you, but I'm telling you what I would do. I am advocating for Mac Jones. They don't have a quarterback. So
that's true. That is true. And
unless they think Taysom Hill is a franchise QB, he's a 30-year-old tight end. I mean, I guess.
No, he's not. He's not a franchise QB. It's just like with the Saints, it doesn't even matter because they're going to default because they're out of money. I mean, they're collateral. I mean, I just don't see this team making it to the playoffs just because now they're going to be a complete mess. But yeah, I mean, Mac Jones could really fit with Sean Payton's system, and it'd just be a good restart, rebuild. You have already a good running back. You have some good defensive players. You have weapons offensively, and you can get more, especially in rich wide receiver draft classes like we've seen last few years. So, yeah, give him Mac Jones.
All right. Well, if Mac Jones is going to be successful, this is a great landing spot for him, right?
Yeah.
Gets a great running back, great receiver, good offensive line. He has it all. Now, Green Bay is on the clock, and I think I'm just going to take a wide receiver. I feel like that's kind of copy and paste like every time, but I mean, maybe in this universe they get Allen Robinson or Kenny Galladay or T.Y. Hilton or somebody and they choose someone else. But I'm going to take Kadarius Toney here. Doesn't even hurt to have him as a third receiver, right? You could still take a wide receiver.
They need wide receivers. I mean, I've seen more running backs lined up on their formations than I've seen wide receivers. And it's not like they run a 2 tight end set all the time. So, all right, Buffalo, 30th pick. They definitely need some front seven defensive help, especially in the run game. And honestly, I've heard a lot of great things about Zaven Collins. He's a stud. He's 6'4". Oh yeah, give him Zaven Collins. Oh my goodness.
Zaven Collins is like my favorite player in the entire draft. I obviously don't think he's the best player, but a linebacker that is 6'4", 260. Crazy.
Give him that. That is the build you need to try and stop the run.
Like if they can't stop the run with this guy, they're not.
Yeah, no, that was I was like, okay, Buffalo needs help in the run defense. What's a good solid body to help stop the run? How about a 6'4", 260-pound man? Yeah, that'll do it. Okay.
All right. I am on the Kansas City Chiefs, and they need an offensive lineman. I'm not going to go tackle. I'm actually going to go along the interior. I'm going to take either Wyatt Davis or Creed Humphreys. I'm just going to go Wyatt Davis here. They need guard help. I think both their tackles are going to be healthy. So there you go.
Yeah, they're going to be they're going to be again mobilizing their offensive line, something we already talked about earlier on the show. So I think regardless, either way, it's going to be good picks for Kansas City. Just making sure that they do have depth on their offensive line.
I would like to say something. I feel like this isn't really updated. How does their team need edge rusher and defensive tackle?
I don't think
I don't think it's updated.
No, I don't think it's updated at all. I think it's way off. I think there's some holes that they're not realizing, and I don't know. It's weird, but I'm glad that we've been at least trying to do our best to draft from an honest standpoint. But yeah, this has been weird. Okay, with the final pick in the first round of the NFL draft, Super Bowl champions and 7-time NFL champion Tom Brady, who will be his next teammate. Um, Again, I don't really think they need help at edge. I think their defensive line is fine. I also think their wide receivers are fine. Last time I checked, they're going to keep most of them, if not all of them.
I mean, Travis Etienne is on the board, man. I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign their running backs. I mean,
That is true.
like they're probably going to get deals somewhere else.
Yeah, I think Leonard Fournette's going to go somewhere else.
I think Ronald Jones is a free agent too.
Stay. He's a stud, but
He might be a free agent. I don't know.
you know
Maybe
what?
not.
You know what? Give him Travis Etienne. He is a solid back. He's good in not only the run game but the pass game as well. He's done a lot for Trevor Lawrence when they were both in Clemson together, and I think he'll be the perfect guy that Tom Brady's going to want to have a check down kind of person. I think he's really been missing that since Sony Michel and other running backs in New England.
All right, and with that, the 2021 NFL Draft first round has concluded. I will do a quick scroll through of the picks we've made for the audience. Obviously, if you're listening this on the audio version, go to YouTube and you can look at it because I'm not going to repeat every single pick. Here are the top 10. Scroll down. There are 11 through 18. 19 through 27. Finally, all the way down to the 32nd pick from about 24 to 32.